The Cincinnati Bengals have a real decision sitting right in front of them, and it is not some small roster note that gets pushed to the side once training camp starts. This one is about DJ Turner, his future in Cincinnati, his value across the NFL, and whether the Bengals are getting close to the point where they need to treat him like one of the premier cornerbacks in football before the price climbs even higher. Before we get into it, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of Bengals conversation that matters before the noise of training camp takes over. We are not just talking about highlights here. We are talking about a young corner entering his prime, a possible major extension, and a front office that has to decide how aggressive it wants to be with a player who has already made a strong case that he belongs among the better corners in the league. DJ Turner is absolutely a priority for the Cincinnati Bengals heading into training camp. That is the cleanest way to say it. And the big question now is not whether Turner is good. That part is already clear. The real question is how good he is, how high he should be ranked among NFL corners, and what that means when it is time to talk money. Because once you start talking about cornerback one money, everything changes. It is easy for fans to say, just pay the guy. And honestly, that reaction makes sense. Turner is young, he is fast, he has shown real growth, and he is coming off a season where the ball production finally matched the flashes people had seen before. But when the conversation moves toward top 10, top 15, or maybe even higher money at the position, the Bengals have to ask a tougher question. They have to look at the player, look at the cap, look at the market, and decide where DJ Turner truly fits. And based on the numbers and the tape, there is a very real argument that DJ Turner is already a top 15 cornerback in the NFL. That may sound strong, but it is not a wild take when you break it down. Turner finished with 13 pass breakups in 2025. He added 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. That is real ball production. That is not just being nearby. That is not just being close. That is making plays on the football, changing possessions, and giving the defense exactly what teams are searching for from a high-level outside corner. The story with Turner has always started with his athletic profile. Coming out of Michigan as a second-round pick, he was not the biggest corner. That has always been part of the conversation. He is listed around 5'11" and about 180 pounds on a good day. And there are moments where size and physicality naturally become part of the evaluation. He can deal with contact. He can get boxed out at times. He is not built like one of those big, heavy corners who wants to punish people on every snap. But what he does have is elite movement ability. He has real speed. He has twitch. He can change direction. He can accelerate. He can stay attached to receivers in man coverage. When you watch him carry routes, mirror releases, and stay in the hip pocket of wideouts, you see exactly why the Bengals should be paying attention right now. There are corners who win with size. There are corners who win with length. Turner wins with speed, feet, recovery ability, and a growing understanding of timing. That last part is the key. The timing has caught up. As a rookie, Turner had flashes. The physical tools were obvious. There were plays where he was right there, just inches away from a pass breakup. That was the theme. He was close. He was in position. He was not getting completely lost. But the ball skills, the timing, the final detail at the catch point, that was still developing. Then you look at the progression. As a rookie, he had 6 pass breakups on 518 coverage snaps. In 2025, he had 13 pass breakups on 580 coverage snaps. That is not a massive difference in opportunity, but it is a huge difference in production. He went from being around the ball to making the play on the ball. That is the kind of step that changes how a player is viewed. And it did not come out of nowhere either. Even in 2024, when Turner missed a lot of time and had only 329 coverage snaps, he still had 8 pass breakups. So when people look at 2025 and wonder if the pass breakup production was just a one-year spike, the answer is that the trend had already started. He was already becoming more disruptive. He was already starting to turn those near misses into real plays. That is why the Bengals cannot treat this like some ordinary extension decision. Turner is not just a young starter who held his own. He is a young corner who has already shown high-end coverage ability and who is entering the most valuable part of his career. He turns 26 in November, and any extension now would likely lock in the prime years of his career. A 3-year extension could make sense for both sides. The Bengals would get his prime. Turner would still have a chance to return to the market before turning 30. A 4-year structure could be attractive for the team, but the player may naturally want another shot at a major deal while he is still young enough to command one. That is where this gets interesting, because when you look at the cornerback market, the money is climbing. Corners are getting paid. The league is valuing coverage more and more, and when a corner can play man coverage, stay sticky, and produce on the football, that player is going to have a serious argument at the negotiating table. And Turner's side appears to know that. There was a recent social media post from his agent, Andre Odom, that pointed toward cornerback one money, with the idea of CB1 money being soon. That does not mean we know the exact asking price. Nobody should pretend we know every detail of the negotiation. But it does tell you this conversation is very real. Turner's camp understands the market. The Bengals understand the market. And now both sides have to figure out whether the number lands closer to the top 10 range, the top 15 range, or something even bigger. The franchise tag number matters here, too. The cornerback franchise tag for 2027 is expected to be around $23.7 million, just under $24 million. That creates a natural baseline. If Turner plays out the season without an extension and the Bengals want to keep him, that tag number is sitting there. So from the player's side, it is easy to see why the conversation starts in that neighborhood and then moves upward. If top 10 corner money is around $25 million per year, Turner has a case to ask for that kind of number. Maybe the Bengals push back. Maybe they say he is not quite top 10. Maybe they point to areas where his game is not complete, but the starting point is understandable. And the Bengals' side of the argument is not that Turner cannot cover. They cannot really say that. The numbers would make that hard. According to PFF, Turner ranked 14th overall in defensive grade among 77 corners. His coverage grade ranked 4th overall. His man coverage grade ranked 11th. His zone coverage grade ranked 29th. Those are strong coverage numbers. That is the kind of profile teams pay for. But there is one clear negative: run defense. Turner ranked 74th in run defense out of 77 corners. That is the part the Bengals could use in negotiation. Not because they do not value him, and not because it erases what he does well, but because that is the one obvious place where they can say, "You are excellent in coverage, but you are not complete in every phase." And that is fair. Turner is not the type of corner who is going to be known for setting the edge, blowing up run plays, and piling up stops near the line of scrimmage. He is not that physical presence in the run game. He is not going to be confused with the corners who bring elite run support on top of coverage ability. But here is the thing. The NFL has already shown that tackling and run defense issues do not necessarily stop top corners from getting paid. Derek Stingley had a 22% missed tackle rate last year and still got paid at the very top of the market. J.C. Horn, who is widely viewed as one of the better corners in the league, had a 30% missed tackle rate. Turner does not have that level of missed tackle problem. His tackling grade was 37th, right in the middle of the pack. The run defense grade is the concern, not some massive tackling disaster. So when you separate it that way, the Bengals can point to run defense, but Turner can point right back to what matters most at the position: coverage. And in coverage, the numbers are strong. Turner allowed only 29 catches last year. That is fewer than 2 catches per game across a 17-game season. He allowed a 46.8% completion rate. He allowed 419 yards, which is less than 25 yards per game. He allowed 4 touchdowns. Quarterbacks had a 77. 3 passer rating when targeting the player Turner was covering, while the league average passer rating was around 93. Those are the numbers that get corners paid. Because at the end of the day, the Bengals are not paying DJ Turner to be a linebacker. They are paying him to cover. They are paying him to handle speed, stay with receivers, contest throws, and make quarterbacks think twice before attacking his side. And Turner did that. One of the plays that really captured what he can be was the Steelers game, when Turner took the ball away from DK Metcalf on the sideline. That is not supposed to be the matchup, where a smaller corner wins with strength at the catch point. Metcalf is the big, powerful possession receiver in that situation. He is the one expected to dominate with size. Turner, at 5'11" and 180 pounds on a good day, was not supposed to win that way, but he did. That play matters because it shows there are moments where Turner plays bigger than his frame. He may not be a heavy run defender snap after snap, but he is not some corner who avoids competition at the catch point. He has shown he can make physical plays when the ball is in the air. And that matters when you are trying to decide whether a player can live as a high-level outside corner. The question is where he ranks. Top 15 feels very reasonable. Top 10 is tougher. That is not an insult. The cornerback group across the NFL is strong. When you start naming the top guys, the list fills up fast. Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, Trent McDuffie, J.C. Horn, A.J. Terrell, Denzel Ward, Christian Gonzalez, Quinion Mitchell, Devin Witherspoon, Cooper DeJean, Christian Benford, Joey Porter Jr. There are a lot of names in the conversation. Some players have stronger track records. Some have already been paid. Some have accolades. Some are more complete against the run. Some play different roles, including slot-heavy roles, which makes the comparison harder. That is why top 10 is not an easy argument right now. But top 15? That is very much on the table. Turner belongs in that discussion based on his coverage grade, his man coverage ability, his pass breakup production, and his overall trajectory. And here is the part Bengals fans should really think about. If Turner does this again, the conversation changes again. If he has another season with 2 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and high-level coverage numbers, he is going to have a much stronger resume. If he adds a Pro Bowl appearance, now he has the recognition that often pushes these negotiations into a different bracket. Right now, the Bengals may still have a window to get a deal done before the price climbs even more. That is the danger of waiting. Waiting can protect a team if the player takes a step back or gets hurt. But waiting can also cost a team if the player confirms what the tape and numbers already suggest. And with Turner, there is a real chance that another strong year makes his asking price higher, not lower. Now let's talk about the Bengals' problem, because this is where the conversation gets complicated. They have about $16.5 million in cap space right now, according to the numbers being discussed. But they are not going to spend all of that. Once you account for regular season expenses, practice squad costs, elevations, and the extra realities of running a roster, the real cushion is smaller. It may be closer to $8 million in practical regular season space. That does not mean they cannot extend Turner. They can, but the structure matters. Turner is currently in the final year of his rookie deal at roughly $4 million. If the Bengals extend him, they do not necessarily have to rip up that final year completely. They can tack the extension onto it and structure the cap hits in a way that makes the short-term number more manageable. For example, If Turner signed a 3-year extension worth $25 million per year in new money, that would be $75 million in new money. But when you include the remaining rookie year, the practical structure could look like 4 years and around $79 million. That brings the average over the full 4-year window to about $19.75 million per year. That is much easier for the Bengals to digest than looking at a clean $25 million cap hit every season. That is the accounting side of football. The player gets the new money average that places him in the right market range, while the team uses the existing rookie year to spread out the cap impact. But if the number climbs to $28 million, $29 million, or $30 million per year, the conversation gets harder. That is where the Bengals may start to feel real pressure. A $25 million deal and a $30 million deal are not the same thing. That gap matters, especially for a team that is already feeling the squeeze. A simple structure could include something like a $15 million signing bonus while leaving his current year's salary alone. In that scenario, the Bengals would have to account for the rest of the money over the extension years. If the structure added around $4 million to his cap hit this year, the Bengals' current cap space could drop from around $16 $5 million to about $12.5 million. That is manageable. The bigger issue is next year. Right now, Turner is not on the 2027 cap. If he signs an extension, he suddenly is. Depending on structure, that could mean a cap hit somewhere around $20 million. That changes the Bengals' flexibility immediately. And when you look ahead, they may only have around $15 million in cap space after a Turner extension, give or take, depending on exact structure and future moves. That is when the Bengals have to think about restructures. Joe Burrow's contract becomes part of the conversation. Jamar Chase's contract could eventually become part of it too. If the Bengals want to keep packing the roster and stay aggressive, those levers are going to have to be pulled. Not once, not casually, potentially with some frequency. That is the reality when expensive core players are on the books and the team still wants to hold on to ascending young talent. And Turner may only be the first name in a bigger wave. Dax Hill, Myles Murphy, Jordan Battle, Chase Brown, Ted Karras, and maybe Dalton Risner were all mentioned as future or possible contract-related conversations, depending on how things develop. That does not mean every one of those players gets extended. It means Turner is not being evaluated in a vacuum. The Bengals have to look at the whole roster, the upcoming decisions, and how many players they can realistically keep. That also helps explain why the Bengals did not automatically pick up the 5th-year option for Myles Murphy. When the future cap picture is tight, every guaranteed or projected dollar matters. A roster full of veterans and paid players can become expensive fast. That makes cost-controlled draft picks extremely important. The Bengals need this draft class to produce useful players, while those players are still on rookie contracts. That is how teams survive when the top of the roster gets expensive. But even with all of that, Turner still feels like an obvious priority. Because premium coverage is expensive, and it is not easy to replace. A corner who can play man coverage, run with receivers, contest throws, and produce on the ball is exactly the kind of player teams spend years trying to find. The Bengals already have one. He is young, he is improving, he is entering his prime, he fits what they want to do defensively, and his best football may still be in front of him. That is why this decision cannot be reduced to he is not good against the run. That is part of the evaluation, but it is not the whole evaluation. If Turner were just an average cover corner with poor run defense, this would be a very different discussion. But he is not average in coverage. He ranked 4th in coverage grade. He ranked 11th in man coverage. He had 13 pass breakups. He allowed fewer than 2 catches per game. He held quarterbacks to a passer rating well below league average when they targeted him. That is the profile. So what should the Bengals do? They should be aggressive but disciplined. If the number is around $25 million per year in new money, there is a strong argument to get it done. That would place Turner in the top 10 money conversation without necessarily forcing the Bengals into the very top of the market. It would reward the player, protect the team from the franchise tag scenario, and lock in a prime-age corner before another strong season potentially drives the price higher. If Turner's camp is pushing closer to $30 million per year, that is where the Bengals have a tougher call. At that number, they would need to be fully convinced he is not just top 15, but moving toward the true elite tier. They would need to believe the coverage production is sustainable, the ball production will remain strong, and the run defense limitations are not enough to change the value. And maybe Turner can get there. That is the thing. The argument today is top 15. The argument tomorrow could be higher if he repeats what he just did. That is why this training camp window matters. This is the time when the Bengals typically start having these kinds of serious extension conversations. And with the agent activity already floating out there, it feels like the timing is not accidental. Turner's side knows the moment is here. The Bengals know the moment is here. Now the question is whether both sides can land on a number that reflects the market without breaking the team's future flexibility. For Bengals fans, this is one of those situations where both sides have a reasonable argument. Turner can say he is one of the best young corners in the league, and he has the coverage numbers to back it up. He can point to the pass breakups, the interceptions, the forced fumbles, the low completion percentage allowed, the low yardage total, and the passer rating against him. He can point to the fact that top corners are getting paid, and that the franchise tag is already sitting near $24 million. The Bengals can say they value him, but they also have to manage a tight cap. They can say he is excellent in coverage, but not a complete run defender. They can say top 15 money is different from top 5 money. They can say the roster has more extension decisions coming. They can say the difference between $25 million and $30 million per year is real. Both sides would be telling the truth. And that is what makes this story so important. It is not a simple pay him or do not pay him debate. It is about finding the right price before the market forces the decision. It is about understanding that DJ Turner has become one of the most important players on this defense. It is about recognizing that the Bengals may have a legitimate top 15 corner entering his prime, and those players are not cheap. The bottom line is this: DJ Turner has done enough to make himself a priority. He has done enough to make the Bengals seriously consider a major extension before training camp or around the start of it. He has done enough to make the top 15 corner conversation legitimate. And if he does it again, the Bengals may look back and wish they had moved even faster. Now, I want to hear from Bengals fans. Where do you stand on DJ Turner right now? Is he already a top 15 corner in the NFL? Would you be comfortable with the Bengals paying him around $25 million per year? And if his camp pushes closer to $30 million, would you still do it? Or would that be too rich for a team already trying to manage a tight cap situation? Drop your thoughts, because this is one of the biggest Bengals decisions sitting in front of the team as training camp approaches. Who day?